All right, get ready to dive into the world of serious games.
Sounds intense. Are we jumping into the deep end?
You could say that. We're tackling one of those research papers that can feel like it's written in a secret code. You know the ones I mean.
Oh, yeah, I've definitely come across a few of those. Decoding academic jargon, that's our mission today.
Exactly. And this paper is all about how games are being used for way more than just entertainment these days.
And it's about time we recognize that, right?
Absolutely. This isn't just some niche trend anymore.
Seriously, we're talking about major changes happening across all kinds of fields. Healthcare, education, even scientific research is getting in on the action.
It sounds like this research paper has a lot to say. No pressure or anything.
Well, the paper's main goal is to clearly define serious games. You'd be surprised how tricky that could be.
Okay, so let's start with something I can grasp. We're talking about games that have a deeper purpose. They're not just about having fun, right?
Exactly. Think of it this way. At their core, games have goals, challenges, and rules. Serious games take all that and apply it to the real world. They use interactive play to tackle complex issues.
That makes a lot of sense. But where do toys fit into all of this? I mean, building a Lego tower isn't exactly serious, is it?
You're right, the paper does a good job of explaining the differences between games and toys.
So what's the key difference?
Games have what we call intrinsic objectives, goals that are built into how the game is designed. Think about Pac-Man. You have to gobble up those dots, avoid the ghosts, and get the highest score possible. Those objectives are a core part of the game itself.
Okay, I get it. Pac-Man has built-in goals, so it's a classic game. But what about something like a teddy bear? That's a toy, right?
Exactly. A teddy bear is all about open-ended play, fueled by imagination. There's no right or wrong way to play with it, no set goals to achieve.
So a toy is all about freedom and creativity.
Right. But here's where it gets interesting. Even toys can have surprisingly serious applications.
Really? You're going to have to explain this one.
Think about those same teddy bears being used in nursing schools. They're used to teach students how to care for infants.
So even though a teddy bear doesn't come with a rule book, the context in which it's used can transform it into a powerful learning tool.
Precisely.
Okay, teddy bear nurses. That's a good one.
Right.
I'm starting to see how games and toys can be used in ways we don't always think about. But let's get back to the paper for a sec.
Okay, back to the paper.
It says serious games have those built-in goals, but they're repurposed for non-entertainment uses. And then it breaks down all the different ways serious games are actually being used out there in the real world. What are some of these game-changing applications?
Well, the first one the paper talks about is all about using games to get a message across. It's kind of like a dynamic, interactive pamphlet, if you will.
Interesting. Instead of passively reading something, you're really engaging with the information.
Exactly. We're talking educational content, public service announcements, even tackling social issues head on.
So it's like sneaking in a message while you're having fun.
Pretty much. And the best part is it works. One example the paper highlights is a game called Out of Time.
Out of time. Okay. What's the objective of that one?
Well, this game was designed to help teenagers with diabetes management. It's not your typical action-packed game, but it's really effective.
So instead of just handing teens a boring medical pamphlet, they get to play a game about it. That's pretty smart.
Exactly. Out of Time embeds all this crucial information about diabetes and coping strategies into a really compelling mystery narrative.
So they're learning without even realizing it. Okay, I like where this is going. What's next? What other superpowers do serious games have?
The next one is all about training thinking, honing your skills or pushing your cognitive abilities.
Okay, so like those flight simulators they used to train pilots.
Exactly. But imagine that for anything you can think of.
Oh, wow, yeah. Everything from performing brain surgery to like landing a rocket on the moon.
You got it. Although I'm not sure we're quite ready to hand over the controls to a gamer for brain surgery. The point is, the possibilities really are pretty much endless. The paper talks about this game called Veracity Fish. It helps people regain motor skills during rehabilitation, especially for upper limb injuries.
Veracity fish. Okay, so walk me through the session up. I'm picturing myself as like a shark, right? Swimming around, gobbling things up.
Not exactly a shark. In Veracity Fish, you control a fish, and you use your arm movements to navigate this underwater world.
Okay, so the game helps people regain control and strengthen their arms.
Precisely. And it makes those often repetitive rehabilitation exercises way more engaging.
That's brilliant. I can see how something like that can make a huge difference for someone recovering from an injury. It's so much more motivating than just doing the same old exercises over and over.
Right. And that brings us to what might be the most mind-blowing function of serious games enabling data sharing.
Okay, now you've got my attention. Data sharing. Tell me more.
Think of these games as data powerhouses. They're gathering information, analyzing it, even crowdsourcing data for research purposes.
Hold on. Games are contributing to scientific breakthroughs now. Okay, I've got to hear.
There's a really cool example of this. There's a game called Fold It. It was developed to tackle this really complex scientific problem called protein folding.
Protein folding. I'm going to need a little refresher on what exactly that is.
So proteins are these essential molecules, the building blocks of life, really. And the way they fold determines how they function. Figuring out how they fold is crucial for things like developing new drugs and therapy.
Okay, so it's pretty important stuff, but how does a game help with something that complex?
That's the ingenious part. Fold It takes this super complex scientific problem and turns it into a game. Players fiddle with these protein structures, trying to figure out how they fold in the most stable way possible. And get this, the solutions that players came up with, they've actually helped scientists make significant breakthroughs in understanding these protein structures.
Wow, that's incredible. Gamers are basically saving the world one protein fold at a time. This is amazing.
Right, and we haven't even touched upon the distinction the paper makes between internal and external functions of serious games.
Okay, before we jump into that, remind me what exactly internal and external functions are again.
Sure, internal functions are those baked directly into the game's design, right from the get-go. External functions, on the other hand, are more about how a game is used in a specific setting, even if the creators didn't intend for it to be used that way.
Okay, so internal is deliberate and external is kind of like a happy accident.
Exactly.
I think I'm going to need an example to really wrap my head around this. What have you got? All right, internal versus external. Give me an example that'll make it crystal clear.
Let's think back to Pulse, that emergency room game we talked about.
The one where I'm not qualified to be let loose on real patients.
Exactly. So internally, that game is all about teaching those crisis management skills you need in a high-pressure ER. But here's where things get interesting. Medical schools have started using Pulse in ways the creators probably never even imagined.
Really? Like,
Well, for example, they're using it to help students get familiar with a real operating room. You know, the layout, the equipment, that sort of thing.
oh, I see. So even though the game wasn't specifically designed for that, it's become a valuable tool for teaching those basic spatial awareness skills.
Exactly. It shows how a game can take on a life of its own, going way beyond its initial purpose.
That's fascinating. And it sounds like this paper is all about pushing those boundaries, right? It's not just about serious games. There's this whole universe of serious play out there. Where do we even go from here?
You said it. The paper talks about all these other categories: serious toys, serious repurposing, even serious modding.
Okay, break it down for me. What exactly are serious toys?
Remember how we talked about toys being all about open-ended play? Serious toys take that idea but add a purpose. They might not have those rigid goals like games do, but they can still be really powerful tools for getting a message across or, making a positive impact.
Okay, give me an example. What does a serious toy actually look like in action?
Remember back in the early days of the internet when you could send people virtual hugs?
I vaguely remember those.
Well, there was this app that let you send virtual hugs, and it was actually designed to raise awareness about HIV.
Really? Just by sending a virtual hug?
Yep. It was about using that simple gesture to get people talking and build empathy.
It's amazing how powerful something so simple can be.
Absolutely. And that kind of leads us to serious repurposing, taking an existing game and finding a completely new use for it.
Like when all those retirement homes jumped on the Wii Sports bandwagon.
Exactly. Who knew that a gaming console designed for families would become such a hit with seniors?
What's that saying? One console's fun is another's physical therapy. But what about when you want to get really specific, really tailor a game to a purpose? Can you actually modify games to make them serious?
You're thinking about serious modding. It's basically giving a game a complete makeover, turning it into a tool for education, training, or even therapy.
Okay, now I need an example. This sounds incredible.
Imagine playing Parcheesi. Right. But instead of racing around the board, you're learning how to manage asthma.
Wait, what? You've got to be kidding me. They turned Parcheesi into an asthma management tool.
Exactly. It's called Asthma 1, 2, 3 Breath. Same game, completely different purpose.
That's brilliant. It
Yeah.
makes learning fun, which is especially important for kids.
Right. And that's what makes all these distinctions so interesting. It's not always about creating something entirely new. Sometimes it's about recognizing the potential that already exists in the games and toys we're already familiar with.
This deep dive has been eye-opening, to say the least. We've gone from defining serious games to exploring a whole world of serious play. It's clear that this goes way beyond just having fun.
It really does. We're just starting to scratch the surface of what's possible.
Exactly. So, to everyone listening, think about this. What seemingly ordinary game or toy do you think has the potential to make a real difference in the world? What problems can we solve if we start looking at things through that lens of playful problem solving?
Don't underestimate the power of play. Let your imagination run wild.
And on that note, until next time, happy gaming, everyone.